Welcome to All There Is. I'm your host, Kelly Bargabas. Thanks for tuning in today. One of the reasons I started this podcast in 2020 was to share the human experience. And because of that, sometimes the subjects we discuss are all over the place because, well, the human experience is all over the place. We're happy, we're sad, we're hopeful, we're despondent, confused, yet we get up and put our feet on the floor and go about our day even though our hearts are breaking. You do it, I do it. We have no choice, really. One of my family members has this quote as a tattoo, and I love it. Though our own hearts break, we cannot flinch. And it's from The Crucible by Arthur Miller. The last episode was a heavy one, and it was called Mountain Movers, and it was about facing mortality, and it deeply and widely resonated with people. I got a lot of feedback on that episode that really moved me. This week, I want to shift gears again and introduce you to a creative project of mine that has been in me for quite some time. And despite all the distractions that have tried to get in the way, happiness, sadness, hope, despondence, confusion, all those things, the human experience, in spite of all that, I was able to create this thing in such a way that I believe it will resonate widely and deeply as well. The other reason I started this podcast is because I'm a writer, and this platform allows me to share my art with others. I believe in the power of words and stories and their ability to connect us and make the world a better place. I love to write about the things that move me, with the hope they move you too. And while most of my writing on this podcast is nonfiction true stories, and my other books are nonfiction, memoir, and leadership, I now have a novel that I'm currently shopping around for publishing because the story must be told. I will not die with this story still inside me. You see, more than 10 years ago, I woke up out of a sound sleep one morning with 3 words. That happens to me sometimes. That's how I get messages from the universe. Words, sentences, messages will just pop into my head almost like an intrusive alert, like a blinking banner across the top of a web page. And on this particular day, the words I received were, "Loving Lavender Finch." I knew right away that this was the title of a story. Later that morning, as I sat at my writing desk, I got this full paragraph. Loving Lavender Finch was easy, or so it seemed, at least for the people around her who threw the phrase, "love you," around like a simple game of catch. For Lavender, it was more like monkey in the middle. They said "I love you," but the ball was always just out of reach. She never quite believed them. It was too easy. It seemed effortless for them to blurt the words out on a regular basis. She knew loving her wasn't that easy, or at least it shouldn't be. I was hooked, so I set about the work of discovering who this Lavender Finch was, what she wanted from this world, and how I could help her get it. And what I found was a story about shame and secrets and a girl who was convinced that she couldn't possibly let those who were closest to her know her truth because the results would be devastating. And this isn't uncommon, right? Women carry secrets. Men do too, I'm sure of it. We all carry secrets. We don't talk about it, but we all do it. And Lavender is no different. And the really tough lesson that she has to learn, and that we all have to learn somehow, someday, is that secrets build walls that keep love out and shame in, locking us in a lonely place. And trusting people with our secrets is the one thing that lets us receive the love that changes us, lets us receive that love that makes us believe that anything is possible, and that no matter what we do or don't do, it's okay. We're okay. Now you know, or maybe you don't know, I love an elevator pitch. I use elevator pitches in my business life, I use it in leadership coaching, and of course with any creative project I've ever done. So here's my elevator pitch for this novel. When Lavender Finch is assaulted at her first college party, she begins keeping secrets and telling lies to get through her senior year of high school without anyone finding out what happened to her, until she finally realizes that trusting people with her truth is the only thing that will let her receive the love that changes everything. A love story for all of us who've struggled to feel seen and known, not only by others, but also ourselves. Now the back cover might read something like this. Lavender Finch never thought of herself as a liar. To her former fifth-grade teacher, Mrs. Gordon, she's the reliable babysitter. To her devoted tribe of extended family, she's the beloved daughter, niece, and cousin. And to her best friend, Jana, the muse for fashion advice and gossip. But what they don't know is that one night at a college party, when Lavender has too many beers, a boy she just met named Travis lures her in a basement room and has sex with her even though she doesn't want to. Lavender abandons her college plans to avoid any more boys like Travis, but can't tell anyone the truth without revealing what happened to her. So she lies about applying to college, about being accepted to college. She secretly drinks beer on the job after Mrs. Gordon's kids go to bed, chasing the buzz that helps her forget. The truth is, Lavender is terrified of being truly seen and known, so she hides behind this wall of secrets and lies that she's convinced will protect her, but instead locks her in a lonely place, surrounded by shame. As Lavender pushes away all those closest to her, she finds an unexpected relationship with a pen pal from Cuba, Martin, and her grandmother, Louise, who spent Lavender's childhood bouncing from barstool to barstool. Martin is easy to talk to, thinks Lavender is cool and interesting, and doesn't know about any of her lies. They fall in love despite the long distance and make plans to go to California after high school. While earning community service points at Louise's nursing home, Lavender gets a second chance as a granddaughter when these two women form the most beautifully deep bond that transcends family secrets and the years that were lost. When Lavender's lies begin unraveling in a very public way, she is faced with the ultimate dilemma. Will she continue hiding behind her wall of secrets and lies, or will she risk trusting people with her truth and find the love that changes everything? What I love about Lavender brings me back to that quote I shared at the beginning of this. Even though her own heart is broken and shattered from this trauma, she finds love. Even though our own hearts break, we cannot flinch. But enough of me telling you about it. Here's how the story begins. Chapter 1. Lavender Finch was barely awake when she climbed the empty lifeguard chair to watch the sun take its place over the water. She ignored the signs that said, "Stay off, official use only, and violators will be prosecuted." The lifeguards weren't on duty yet, and the beach was empty, except for the giant visor lady carrying the metal detector, and the surf fishing guy wearing a Vietnam hat and black vest, his pole held by a PVC pipe, while he sat in a low chair and smoked cigarettes. Lavender loved every moment at the beach, but witnessing the beginning of a new day was her favorite. Almost felt sacred, worthy of sacrificing sleep. She closed her eyes and pulled in the pungent air until she was full. The calm before the storm. By the time Lavender got back to the beach house, Aunt Beck would be standing at the pantry cabinet with her hands on her hips and the doors swung wide. Disappointed with all the food left uneaten, she would assign the open bags of cereal and chips to be cleaned up by the end of the day. "We don't waste food," she'd say. Uncle Rick and Uncle Rye would be making bets they'd both lose about finishing off that last 12-pack, while the somber and sad undercurrent of, "I can't believe it's over already," soaked into all of them. The next morning, while it was still dark, Lavender's dad would pack the car and they would head north through Wilmington, then Philadelphia, then Scranton, and finally New York State, and their hometown of Siena. The Finch family had been renting a beach house at the Delaware shore for 1 week every summer ever since the oldest cousins were born. Her dad's parents died in a car accident when he was 25, and he and his 4 siblings were determined to keep their family close. As the only child of Ross and Sarah Finch, Lavender couldn't relate to their sibling bond, but she'd had a front row seat to the drama and tension she sometimes witnessed with her aunts and uncles, like when they fought over money or who got the oceanfront suite or who ate all the cereal that belonged to another family. And sometimes the drama was more serious, like divorce, or one of the kids failing out first semester, or someone losing a job. The beach houses they rented got bigger each year, and the annual group photo told the tale of a growing family. New babies, grumpy teens, old faces gone and replaced with new ones, but the original 5 siblings, Rick, Roxanne, Riley, Rebecca, and her dad, Ross, never missed a year, and no matter what happened between them, love always won. Her dad liked to say they were a tribe that ran deep. Lavender and her cousin Jackie, 13 months apart, were the youngest of 8 cousins, which meant they were the lowest priority when it came to bedroom assignments and slept wherever they were told. Some years they shared a couch in the game room, some years they shared a queen-size bed in the pool house, and others they camped out in sleeping bags on the floor. But they never minded. They were just glad to be there with each other and to be part of that tribe. The quiet of the early beach was interrupted by a squeal. Giant Visor Lady bent over and dug below the sand with her miniature shovel. She held her treasure close, right in front of her eyes, before unzipping her pink fanny pack and placing the item safely inside. She looked up at Lavender with a satisfied smile and waved, as if she'd found exactly what she'd been looking for. Lavender smiled and waved back. That will probably be me someday. Lavender shifted in the lifeguard chair to find a cooler section for the underside of her bare legs. The surfers she'd been watching all week were way out from shore, bobbing on their surfboards in the water, waiting for their next wave. A new set was coming in. She could tell by the swell that the first wave was going to be a big one. Not that Lavender had ever surfed, but she'd been watching and studying them ever since that day in the Dewey Beach parking lot when she was 6. She and Jackie were waiting while their parents loaded up the wagons with chairs, umbrellas, boogie boards, blankets, and the cooler that held a bread bag full of tuna sandwiches. A faded yellow pickup truck with a few teenagers in the cab and a few more in the back parked right next to them. They jumped out, grabbed the surfboards from the bed of the truck, and headed over the dunes. Mesmerized by their tan bodies and mysterious smiles, so sure of themselves, Lavender and Jackie spent the rest of that beach vacation and all the ones after that watching them and trying to mimic their moves on their boogie boards, riding the waves close to shore, squealing and laughing every time they caught a good ride and slid up on the beach. They waited for a thumbs up or a round of applause from the adults watching them from their chairs before they jumped up to chase another wave. Lavender hoped that someday she'd be brave enough to learn how to surf, but until then, she was happy to watch. Her favorite surfer with the purple board made a move to take the next one in line. He turned quickly and laid down, moving his arms, slowly at first. He kept his head turned to his back. The wave was growing. He paddled faster. Left, right, left, right. It would crest soon. A few of the other surfers dropped back and let that one pass. He stayed with it. Faster, faster. He waited until he was exactly in the middle of the rise, just before it crested. Now! He popped up, fast and strong, his knees bent, his arms out. He knew he had it. Smiling, he leaned into the push and pull of the wave's path while staying on top, riding the edge while it raced toward shore. Lavender loved the ocean as much as she was afraid of it. She'd had scary moments where she caught the wave at the wrong time and got lost in its momentum, unable to control her own body until the wave had slammed her into the sandy bottom and then moved back out to sea. She'd had plenty of fat lips and scraped knees from getting caught in the washing machine. The ocean was undeniably strong and kept moving no matter what. She learned early on that a wave would never dodge her if she wasn't ready for it. It wouldn't change course to keep from crashing on top of her head or slow its roll toward shore if she wasn't paddling fast enough. She knew it had the power to take her out, and yet she couldn't resist going back for more. Purple Surfboard crouched close to his board, lowering his center of gravity to stay on through this last push. Almost there. A quick fishtail kick, and he was done. You made it. Not that he was looking for it, but Lavender gave him a thumbs up anyway. He scooped his board up under his left arm and stood on the beach, waiting for his friends to come in. The sun was up, shining in full force without any clouds to break up the heat, and the families began to appear to secure their spot on the sand. Lavender was running out of time in the lifeguard chair. She was also running out of summer. Their beach vacation was always the last full week before Labor Day, the official end of the season. In just a few days, she'd be a senior, then a graduate, then a college student. And then what? All summer, people she didn't even know had asked her what her plans were and what she wanted to do with the rest of her life. She was baffled that people expected her to have an answer. She was 17, for God's sake. She had nothing stirring in her soul. Yet. So there you have it. That is chapter 1. A little family drama, a little coming of age, not your typical relationship dynamics, and a 17-year-old female lead character who's also not your typical 17-year-old. She's an old soul. She's resilient. She makes mistakes. She screws up. She has to pay some consequences until she finally figures out that trauma plus secrets equals shame. Trust plus truth equals love. Thanks for tuning in today. Your time is your most valuable possession, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you know anyone who may be interested in this episode, share it, send it, review it, like it. It all helps. You can listen to all past episodes on any podcast platform, but also on kellybargabas.com. You can also reach out to me there. The next few episodes of All There Is, we're going to hear from some real people with broken hearts. We're going to hear about loving an addict, loving a person with autism, and a real-life immigration story that has zero politics, just people at the center of it. So keep tuning in. And until we meet again, take care.